Hello and welcome to Connect. I'm your host, Randy Shabilo. We're on location today at the Maserati and Alfa Romeo dealership, learning more about brands like this. Haven't seen many of these in our city, but we're more and more that are coming, and Michael Wyant from the Wyant Group will give us some background onto that, as well as Patrick Wolf, who'll give us some insight into the economic climate that he's facing here in Saskatoon and the good news stories from him. As always, we'd like to connect with you.
Tweet us at Shaw TV Saskatoon. Follow us on Facebook. Check out Shaw TV Saskatoon on YouTube to watch past episodes, or email shawtv10@shaw.ca with any future guest or topic suggestions.
Saskatoon's car market and the luxury car market has changed these past few years, and one of the individuals and part of his team is responsible for that, and I've invited Michael Wyant here from the Wyant Group to give us some insight into how a lot of this came to be. We've seen a lot of the Ford and Cadillac type of cars on the street, but lately we've seen Maserati and Alfa Romeo and Porsche, and that just seems to be a mainstay here in Saskatoon, and I think the city is expanding and economically doing well. So, Michael, I want to thank you first of all for making time for us in this very new establishment.
Thanks for having me. We're proud of the place.
I want to ask you, when you look at the Saskatoon market and bringing luxury cars to the city, we have BMW and the mainstays, Mercedes and Lincoln and so on. What was it that drove you to try and get more of these cars into our market, and how did that opportunity arise?
Yeah, good question. I mean, for us, it's always, is there a business case to bring a brand like this to market? So, can we sell enough cars to pay for the investment it takes to build a facility and represent the brands properly? That's really what it is for us. We're car nuts. We're passionate about vehicles. So if we can bring a cool brand to Saskatoon and Saskatchewan that wasn't here already, that gets us pretty excited. In 2010, we had the opportunity, after years and years of pushing Porsche Canada, they finally agreed to come visit us in Saskatoon and have a look at the landscape of the city and the opportunity that might be there to increase their sales through a dealership here. So after an application process, and they awarded us the franchise. So we were able to bring the Porsche brand to Saskatchewan, which wasn't already here, giving customers in Saskatoon and Regina the opportunity to purchase and service Porsche vehicles in the province of Saskatchewan, because there was demand for it. And if there's demand and the need isn't being met, we like to try to find those unique opportunities. The Alfa Romeo and Maserati brands making a push into Canada, really trying to expand their network, and we saw an opportunity that we had a great facility that used to be our Audi store that we could renovate to their specifications, and we did the business case and saw that we could sell these vehicles here to enough people, sell enough vehicles to really make the business case work. And so we could bring a really cool product to the market, sell enough vehicles to stay in business, and be able to represent more brands.
How do you get a gauge? I mean, the city, the past 10 years, we just spoke earlier, but the past 10 years, there's just a different mindset here, and the numbers of vehicles. And I mentioned that just driving down the street, and you used to take notice when you saw something different like the Porsche brands on the street, which were probably sold in Calgary or Edmonton at that time.
Exactly.
And now it's not that common, but it is not unusual to see Maserati and Alfa Romeo. Who and what kind of a buyer is that? How do you target that market?
Yeah, there's lots of different factors. I mean, there's demographics you look at, with any of the luxury brands that we sell. Who are we targeting, and do they live here, right? And we found for the majority of the luxury brands, they do, and they're all across the city. We look at, I'll give you Audi as an example. In 2009, we sold 89 new Audi vehicles. And in 2018, we'll sell close to 300. And that's a combination of a bunch of things. Economic growth, obviously growth in population, and the manufacturers have gone into different segments. So your luxury SUV might have cost you $70,000 or $80,000 a number of years ago, but now you can get into one starting, maybe around $50,000. So it's a more affordable proposition for a lot more of the marketplace in Saskatoon. And so, it's allowed our sales volumes to really grow. The other side of it that has been kind of fun to be a part of is the attitudes in Saskatoon amongst the people have really been changing. Just even going back 10 years, like you said, 10 years ago, we still felt it was a little taboo to drive a luxury vehicle. That was the attitude in the province, and we'd been a have-not for so long. And people are a lot different now. They're not afraid to enjoy their success. The luxury vehicles, they're not astronomical in price, maybe a little bit more money than something a bit more mainstream, but people aren't afraid to come out and enjoy some of their success and drive a car that's maybe a little bit nicer. So it's a combination of a whole bunch of things, but we've really seen significant growth in these segments, no matter what's been happening in the economy.
I think that's an important point to touch on, because a lot of the indicators are that there's some blips in the economic radar, if you will. Yeah. But Saskatoon still keeps chugging along, and there's maybe some valleys in some industries, but the level of interest, and it spans right across both domestic and imports. Yeah. Is there a target for sports cars or SUVs in each of these different brands, or what's the trend?
Yeah, no, absolutely there is, and it depends on which brand, but every brand has a certain targeted amount of sales for sports cars and SUVs, and they're all a little bit different. We're still predominantly an SUV market, and ironically, a lot of the luxury car makers that we sell are also predominantly SUV. You'd be surprised to know that Porsche is a predominantly SUV company, where they're iconic for their sports cars, their 911 and their Boxster and Cayman. But 70% of the Porsche vehicles that we sell in Saskatchewan are SUVs. Maserati is another great example where we wouldn't have been able to bring Maserati to the Saskatoon market if they didn't build an SUV that really works well in Canadian climate, the Maserati Levante. So in all of the luxury brands, I saw my first Lamborghini SUV today. We don't sell them, we don't have the franchise, but there was one in Saskatoon. So even the super high-end exotics are building sport utility vehicles that work in the North American market predominantly and around the world. So we still sell lots of sports cars, but we sell a lot more SUVs, and that's really where we've seen a lot of the growth.
How do you, and maybe what do you hear from the local buyer of the vehicle? We were talking earlier about wintertime driving, and do the sports cars get mothballed for 6 months until spring, or do you see them being driven year-round? What is happening with those?
Yeah, great question. It's up to the owner, because almost every sports car that we sell now comes in an all-wheel drive, and that's been a shift over the last half a dozen years. But most sports cars you can get in all-wheel drive, and we sell winter tires for everything, winter rims and tires. So if you want to drive your sports car, high-performance sports car, watch out for potholes in Saskatoon. But a lot of customers will drive them all year round. Some customers are, it's going to be their toy and they're going to put it in the garage. But for the most part, if they want to, they can.
Tell me how you experience the auto mall in South Saskatoon. Some would say, well, it's not good to be next door to your competitors, but there's also a synergy between having a number of different dealerships near your competitors who have a number of different dealerships. Yep. So when businesses compete, the consumer wins. Yep. How does it work for the business case for you?
Yeah, the auto mall concept is, I think back to 2001 when we moved out here, and there was a lot of, it was a big empty field with a lot of grasshoppers, and over the years a lot came up, and Jubilee Ford and Sherwood Chev and Mitsubishi and BMW, and then all of a sudden, as time went on, all of a sudden there was the big box retail development and Stonebridge Housing, and this whole area came up. And it's all come up in the last really 15 years, a little bit more. So it's been neat to watch the investment, the amount of construction. For the consumer, it gives them a central place to come and do their shopping. And while I wouldn't say it pits dealers up against each other, we really are trying to sell the brands that we represent. It then forces dealers to be better on the customer service side. Customers win. We're all competing with product and pricing, and that wouldn't be any different if the dealerships were located in different areas. But really, when you can go to any competitive brand within a 2-block radius, the customer service has to be better. And the customers really win in that respect. And that forces us to hold ourselves and our teams to a higher standard. And we can really be proud of the job that we do with our customers.
Tell us, just in terms of your role, Chief Operating Officer, I don't get the sense that you just parachuted into this role. It seems to me that there's been a little bit of grooming that's happened over the years. How did you start in the car business?
We were going on a family holiday to Disney World, and Dad asked if we wanted any money, and we said yes. So he put my brother and I to work dusting part shelves in the parts department at Jubilee Ford. And if you've ever dusted a part shelf, you know that you dust it one day and it's dusty again the next day. It was a make-work project, and my dad still laughs about it. But we started, my brother and I started in this business when we were kids and grew up in the business, washing cars on the lot. I worked in a dealership when I was in high school, and I went to university for automotive management. So this business has always been my life. My brother's a chartered accountant by trade, but he's grown up in it as well. So we've been fortunate to have an opportunity to work so closely with our dad, who's still our CEO and is still the busiest guy in the company. But you know, getting a lifetime of experience at a young age makes for exciting times as a family as we continue to grow our business and as we grow with the city. So
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, I see. So
I hope not.
I would say that maybe just to close this out, when you look at Saskatoon, you must get a sense of opportunity and that something is ripe on the horizon, or you wouldn't be doing this. It just seems so much safer to invest your money into something else. You can't tell us what's going to happen, but what do you see in the future for the automobile luxury car industry here in Saskatoon?
We see it continuing to grow. We keep making investments in new facilities. We've just, in the past 2 years in Saskatoon, built 4 brand new luxury vehicle facilities, renovated another one. So we're putting our money, we're betting on the future, and we anticipate that the segment will continue to grow, that our population will continue to grow. You know, 10 or 15 years from now, we would like to not have to keep spending money on our buildings, making them big enough, and focus our energy on our operations. But we're really trying to set the footprint now to be ready for the next 15 to 20 years. Because we know it's going to continue to grow. We know our city's going to continue to grow, and we want to be a part of that and make sure that we're ready for it. So I think you're going to see more excitement in the automotive sector. I think there's a few brands that aren't here. I'd love to see them in time be able to be here. Some of those super high-end exotics to service the province of Saskatchewan. We're not there yet. There's a lot of things that are going to happen in the next number of years, but I think it's going to be exciting. And as I said, we're betting on the future. We think Saskatoon's going to be great for a long time.
Well, hurry up, and thank you for all of your investment and confidence in our city, and it's glad to have you here.
Great, thanks so much.
Good. We'll be right back.